Welcome back. Stasa23 here, back again with some knife therapy. And before I get started, I'd like to say thank you to New York John D on Instagram for being so gracious to loaning me this knife. He didn't even get a chance to handle the knife. He got it shipped straight to me from whoever he bought it from. What an awesome guy. I'll leave a link in the description box to his Instagram channel. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, John. I really appreciate it. So what do we have here? We have a new company that's, I say new, they're fairly new to the market. I came across them on Instagram, and that is Bestech Knives. There you go. This is what the knife comes in. There's their logo. Professional manufacturer. I guess they're an OEM manufacturer who decided to make their own. Name of this knife is the Kendo. It's D2 Stonewashed Satin Grind. So like it said, you have your satin on the main bevels and on the tanto, and you got your stone wash on the flats. It's a nice little contrast. There's your Bestech logo, and I think it's nice. It looks nice. Their grinds look beautiful, exceptional looking grinds. You got the name of the knife right there, the Kendo. I should have wiped this off. The model number BG06B-1 and D2 blade steel. Like I said before, you got a tanto, and it's not just your, it's not the straight across tanto like a Warncliffe. It has a little bit of belly in here, so that makes it nicer when you're cutting on a flatter surface. You're not just using just this portion of the blade. So Zelric talks about that a lot, and that is a nice feature. I'm not a huge tanto fan anyway. I don't even know if I own any at the moment. If I do, it's not many. So let's get back into it. You got D2 blade steel, your handle's G10. You got some contouring here and here that help with, it's a nice rounded handle, very nicely done. You got some milled lines in here for added look. You have a B, I guess, for the Bestech decorative pivot. I like that because you got your Torx on this side. Very minimal construction. You got your pivot, and you got your two body screws, and one of them is the pocket clip screws. You have a deep carry pocket clip, and boy, is this deep. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's my simulated pocket. You got your slanted pocket, your flat pocket. Let's see what it looks like in that slanted pocket. There you go. Pretty much disappears. All you have is this little nub right here sticking out. And in your flat pocket, it pretty much disappears in the pocket. There you go. You don't even know it's a knife. Alrighty. So, talked about the handle. I also love the fact of how sleek it is. It's kind of like that Quaking design. Everything kind of fits into the scales. Very nicely done. It's a flipper. Riding on bearings. The action is pretty good. It's not the best action that I've ever seen, but it's definitely better than a lot of knives at this price point, which I don't think I said. This knife comes in around $56, so we're going to see if it meets all that criteria to be a good budget offering. Also, as you can see, they took the time to mill out pockets to nest the liners inside of the G10. That's a nice touch that you don't really see that often on budget knives. Let's see if I have, like, for instance, you see this one, how it's in there, but it's kind of sitting up. That was a bad example, sorry. But it's not sitting on top of the scales like this one. I'm not saying it's a bad knife. You look inside of there. As you can see, those little holes. You got lightning holes in there to lighten up the knife, because this is a rather big knife. Let's get a quick size on this knife. You have about a 3 3/4 inch blade, overall length of 8.5, with about 4 3/4 inch handle. So it's, like I said, it's not a small knife by any means. Let's get a weight on this guy real quick. 4.4 ounces, pretty good for the size. That's really good for the size. It's well balanced. The balance point is right here in that choil, so they did a good job on balancing the knife. And real quick, I'm going to show some knives that are competing heavily in this category with the D2 and the G10, or just the D2 in the budget line. And the first king of the hill right now, I would think, is a non-flipper. That's a Ontario Rat Model 1 in D2 steel. This one has the G10 with the carbon fiber sticker on top of it. These two are almost identical in size, if not identical in size. Another one definitely competing in this category is the Boker Lateralis, and all three of these are almost identical in size. So if you own either one of these, you'll know how this one is in, as far as lengthwise. And we'll talk about what's going to set these two knives apart from this one in a little while. Let's see. And it makes it even harder to buy a knife like this guy that's got pretty much the same materials. This guy was $120 on a Black Friday sale, but it's got D2 steel, G10, and they're both riding on bearings. But I'm going to also touch why this one, you know, you may be wanting to spend extra money on this one. So we talked about all the things I like about the knife. Let's get into some of the things that are nitpicks or things that definitely are not for me. First off, you can see the grind is not symmetrical on both sides. You can see that grind ends right here, and on this side it actually makes it all the way down. And if you flip it over right here, you can see that the tonto tip is pretty off. You can see the grind ends right here on this side, and you can see it ends way back here on this side. So pretty big difference on there, but it's not hurting the functionality of the knife whatsoever. The jimping up here, I forgot to say, is semi-functional. There's not a lot there, so what you do have, it grabs the thumb, not great, but it's, like I said, semi-functional. Going into the blade, another nitpick for me is they almost hit the sharpening choil all the way, but you can see the ricasso line right here that's coming down, and they could have brought that grind of that sharpening choil all the way just to right there. It would have been perfect. I'm not sure whether or not this is going to leave a recurve after sharpening, but you definitely will. You will lose that nice straight line right here. You will have a fatter portion back here because of it. So just, you know, that's a nitpick. Like I said, that's not something that's hurting the functionality of the blade. Another complaint that, you know, wasn't just me. I handed this knife to, I think, 4 other people, and the first time they went to flip this knife at all of them did the same thing. Did that right there. And the reason for it is you got this small flipper tab, and as you see how smooth it is, and able to get to that first jump right there, you kind of have to put your fingernail in there. And once you get the hang of the knife, I can pick it up. Once you get the hang of the knife, it's fine. You got to kind of do a push button, light switch all in one, push down, pull back, to be able to get the knife to fire dependably every time. Now that I've been messing with the knife for several days now, I can hit it every time. Not that big of a deal, but definitely would have liked to see either different shape in the flipper tab, maybe cock that away a little bit so you can just push down on it, or not smooth this out so much, or lifted the flipper tab just a little bit. Any of those would have worked probably just fine. The action on this guy is pretty good as long as you can get your finger on that flipper tab. It is riding on bearings, so you do have a nice snappy action. I like the way they did this cutout right here to get to the lock bar, but if you flip it over on this side, you can see that jimping is above the scale just a little bit, and it's not that big of an issue, but I was shaving some wood, and I noticed whenever I really bared down on the scales that I would get, you can see the imprint on my finger right there from bearing down that actually. So if it would have been just nested a little bit more, I think you'd have still had enough in there to disengage that lock bar, and it wouldn't have been an issue. Another hot spot that I noticed a lot more than this front up here is, see how high that pocket clip is. Usually you'll see a pocket clip come up right here and it'll gradually slope down this way. They left it straight across all the way down there, so when I was bearing down, I definitely felt the back part of this pocket clip bearing into my hands. Wasn't terrible whatsoever. Didn't have to throw a glove on, but you definitely notice it. So after some extended cutting, it may be a problem. You may have to throw on some gloves. Um, let's see. Make sure I touched on everything. Talked about the grind. We talked about the raised portion right here. We talked about the sharpening choil. We talked about this. So out of all those things I talked about, if that would have been it, I could have definitely said this, you know, they got something cooking here, and I would have recommended this knife. But there was a fatal flaw of this knife that, as of right now, until they get it worked out, I couldn't recommend this knife, and this is what I noticed. When I first got the knife, I cut a piece of paper, and let's see, I don't think I've touched this up yet, but this is what I noticed. Okay, it got a catch up right in the middle, and I have touched this up, but it wasn't that sharp. When I first got it, it was working sharp. So not a big deal. Touched it up on the Spyderco Sharp Maker. Got it hair popping sharp. I only sharpened this portion of the blade because I don't use Tantos. That's why I don't really get them. You know, they're good for piercing stuff and doing some pull cutting or using this point right here. But in my testing, I don't use them because it's not something I use on my day-to-day basis. Sorry about that. So, like I said, I got it hair popping sharp again, and I went to a 2x4, started shaving 2x4, and it did a good job. It's decently thin behind the edge. If I can't recall, but it's in the 20 thousandths area, so it's nice and thin. You got a saber grind on here. After I cut the wood, I cut a few pieces of nylon, thick nylon rope. Nothing crazy, nothing that I wouldn't do on any of my other knives. And when I was cutting the rope, I noticed it was tearing the rope. It wasn't really cleanly cutting. So I cut a piece of paper, and it was fairly dull. So touched it back up on the Spyderco Sharp Maker. I thought maybe I cut a good bit of wood and the rope, something dulled it out. So I got it back to hair popping sharp. I broke down one box, not even a big box, just a regular Amazon box. No staples, no nothing. And after I finished breaking down that box, I tested sharpness, and it was almost completely dull. It had barely a working edge on there, and it just didn't sit right with me. So I did that over and over again, and the same results each time. I don't really feel any. Might have a small microchip up here, but I will, you know, after doing this over and over again, I think they need to work on the heat treatment of their D2 steel. And I've talked to Zelric. He's in contact with them, and he said that they had noticed a few little problems with their first couple of batches they had out, and they're working on it, which is awesome to hear. I love to hear that a company listens to the customers and they make the changes necessary, because if not, you know, I would never recommend one of their knives. But I do have two more different Bestechs coming in from my buddy Zelric on a pass around, so I'll be testing them to see how they function, and I'll love to see, you know, what a good one, you know, with the heat treatment is like on this $55 knife. You know, I would love to say the heat treat is as good as the Ontario, because that's a great budget knife right there in my eyes. I can recommend this one all day. I could recommend this one all day. The heat treatment on Boker's D2 is good. They do a good heat treat on a lot of their blades. Now, they have some other quality control issues, not on this one, but some of the other knives. I can definitely vouch for Jason Browse's D2. His heat treatment on here is spot on. I think he does a great job, you know, or it could just be my few knives I've had from him, but they've all been great. No issues whatsoever. The Zancudo heat treat they run there's a little soft, but I understand that makes it easier to sharpen in the woods, or, you know, just your average working man. that needs to sharpen up their knife. It's a little bit easier to sharpen. Still holds a really good edge, and I would love to even see it, at least to this level. I mean, this knife is $34, I think. Definitely, I'm definitely gonna not rule them out, as a new company, being that they're just getting started. But I will be interested to see and checking out some of their other knives, so I can give y'all a better judgment on how their heat treat is. I hate to tell that to my buddy John. He hasn't even got this knife yet. But for me, maybe you'll better sharpen that out. Maybe they just have a small portion that, the temper was bad on. I don't know. Zelric told me that after he was able to he sharpened his and kind of took that initial, bottom part of the edge out. He said his is good now. So, John, you could try that. I hope that works. I really appreciate you letting me check out the knife, and I wish I had better things to say. So, hope this was informative. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If y'all like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with all your friends and family and your social network. And if you like my channel, please hit that subscribe button, people. Let's get over 1,000 so I can do my giveaway now. Let's do it. All right, guys and girls. Hope everybody's having an absolute wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.